Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. I am so pumped you're here today because we're looking at a story that literally rewrote the rulebook for a massive global industry. We're diving into the origins of Spotify, the startup that changed how the world listens to music. I mean, going from an existential piracy crisis that had record executives sweating bullets to building a platform used by millions upon millions of us every single day, it's an absolute masterclass in problem solving. Let's get into it. Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to cast your mind back to the early 2000s for a second. Think about the daily, kind of agonizing friction of that era. Remember the unbelievably slow internet connections? The towering stacks of blank, burned CDs cluttering up your desk? Or those clunky MP3 players that held, like, maybe a few dozen songs at best? Well, right into the middle of that landscape, a single, incredibly bold question emerged. What if music became easier to stream legally than to steal? I know, it sounds super obvious now, right? But back then, this was a totally revolutionary thought that would shake the foundation of music distribution to its core.
Section 1. The Music Piracy Crisis.
Before we can fully appreciate the sheer elegance of Spotify's solution, we really have to understand the absolute chaos of the problem. Digital piracy wasn't just some minor annoyance, It was a literal existential threat to record labels, producers, and artists everywhere. Just looking at this timeline, you can see how unbelievably fast things fell apart. Back in the late 90s, we see the rise of Napster, which basically blew the lid right off traditional physical music distribution. Then, moving into the early 2000s, peer-to-peer sharing was suddenly everywhere. Anyone with a computer and decent internet could grab almost any song for free. By the mid-2000s, we're looking at a massive, unprecedented plunge in legitimate music sales. The internet was spreading piracy way faster than confused music executives could even comprehend, let alone stop. They were paralyzed, and artists were being starved of their rightful revenue. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the crisis they were facing. On one hand, you've got plummeting music sales, a historic industry practically in freefall. And on the other hand, exploding digital piracy, this unstoppable wave of illegal downloading. It was a completely broken system. The industry essentially treated the internet like public enemy number one, trying to fight it with massive lawsuits, heavy restrictions, digital locks, the whole shebang. But the thing is, consumer behavior had already shifted. The genie was entirely out of the bottle, and the old way of doing business was just failing fast. Section 2. Founders with a Vision. So while the music industry was busy going to war with the internet, two Swedish entrepreneurs, Daniel Ek and Martin Lorentzon, decided, you know what, it's time to actually fix this broken system. Their vision was beautifully simple: instant legal music access. Daniel Ek had this deep, lifelong passion for tech and entrepreneurship. He looked at the massive piracy problem and get this, he didn't see an enemy to sue, he saw a massive failure of user experience. He and Martin envisioned this seamless, frictionless bridge between the infinite potential of the internet and the established recording industry. They firmly believed that if you just built a legal service that was genuinely better, faster, and easier to use than piracy, well, people would gladly use it.
Section 3. Building the Spotify Platform.
Now, actually turning that grand vision into a working legal product that people could use without, getting a massive lawsuit in the mail, that was a grueling uphill battle. First off, they needed remarkably fast streaming tech. We're talking engineers pulling countless late nights perfecting zero-delay playback. When you clicked play, that song had to start instantly, making it feel like it was already sitting on your hard drive. Next up was the monumental and honestly grueling task of negotiating with record labels. I mean, picture trying to convince terrified music executives to hand over their incredibly valuable catalogs to some relatively unknown tech startup. But they actually managed it. They launched their sleek desktop app and eventually drove this massive expansion to mobile devices, which essentially put the entire world's music library right into our pockets.
So, the crucial point is how they actually convinced users to switch over from the free, illegal downloads they already loved. The magic answer? The freemium model. This is a business strategy where you offer basic platform access totally for free, but you charge for premium ad-free features. This was the absolute genius mechanism that got people to abandon piracy. You could listen to essentially anything you wanted for free, completely legally, just interspersed with a few ads. Or you could drop a small monthly fee for an uninterrupted premium experience. It completely wiped out the barrier to entry and offered a crystal clear path to monetization.
Section 4. Transforming the music industry. And spoiler alert, it worked beyond anyone's wildest dreams. This launch didn't just save music sales, it fundamentally shifted everyday consumer behavior on a massive global scale. Think about it. We went from buying static albums to curating these highly personalized playlists. The introduction of recommendation algorithms meant the platform actively learned what you vibed with and actually helped you discover new artists. That created this incredibly sticky, engaging user experience. Later on, they expanded into podcasts, basically becoming a central hub for all audio entertainment. And through all this, they achieved unprecedented global reach. Suddenly, some local indie band could be recommended to millions of fans worldwide practically overnight. Spotify wasn't just a software app anymore. It had become a household name, totally baked into how we exercise, commute, study, and work. Section 5. Modern Challenges and Competition. Of course, as any business student will tell you, being a pioneer means you're constantly facing new hurdles. You simply can't revolutionize a global industry without attracting some heavy, heavy competition. Today's streaming wars put Spotify, the pioneer, head-to-head with some massive, deeply entrenched tech titans. We're talking Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon Music. These companies have incredibly deep pockets and their own massive hardware ecosystems. They've all stepped into the arena to fight for global listeners, each leveraging their own unique market presence and origins to try and capture our attention. It is a fiercely competitive landscape where you honestly can never, ever stop innovating. And lurking just beneath that fierce competition is a really complex financial reality. Look at how heavily licensing costs and royalties eat into the overall platform revenue here. Now, we're just looking at the facts neutrally, but it's important to note there are ongoing, intense debates within the industry right now about artist royalties and the massive licensing costs it takes just to keep a platform like this running. Look, streaming undeniably saved the industry's bottom line from the piracy crisis, but the conversation about exactly how those revenues are split up between the platform, the massive record labels, and the individual artists themselves, well, that's a highly complex, ongoing challenge that the entire ecosystem is still actively wrestling with today. Let's move to Section 6, Lessons from the Revolution, and see how this builds together. All right, we've explored the fascinating history and the modern challenges, so let's distill all of this down into some highly actionable takeaways for any aspiring entrepreneurs out there watching. Step 1. Solve a problem that affects millions. Piracy was a massive global pain point for both the industry and the everyday users who just wanted an easier way to listen. Step 2. Make the legal option more convenient. This one is huge. They didn't win by suing their users, right? They won by building a strictly better product. Step 3. Combine technology with partnerships. Having brilliant zero-latency streaming tech would have been totally useless without putting in the grueling human work of securing those label partnerships. And finally, Step 4. Continuously innovate. From desktop to mobile, from just music to podcasts, you have got to keep evolving as the market changes around you. To wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with this incredibly powerful thought. Innovation isn't just about new technology. It's about changing human behavior. Spotify didn't invent digital music. They completely reinvented our daily experience with it. They took an industry that was in total crisis and they built a solution so brilliantly frictionless that it changed how the entire world listens. It really makes you wonder, looking around at the friction and the inefficiencies in our own lives today, what behaviors might you change next? Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, keep learning.